What's up, bikers? We have hundreds of people that have entered data on performance testing. If you're a mountain biker and you want to see how you stack up, do these 3 simple tests. For 18 months or so, we've been collecting data on testing. Those tests that I'll give you today are 2-minute tests. There are 3 of them: burpees, pull-ups, and thrusters. We'll get to why in a second. But when the time is right, you'll be able to screenshot or pause this video and see exactly the hundreds of people that have performed those tests, and hopefully you'll have performed it as well, and you can check where you stack up against all of those other riders. These 3 tests are only a small proportion of the total tests that we give you on the Fit for Racing program. These are to check your functional fitness in 2 minutes of work. Because we know that an FTP on a bike for 20 minutes or total strength aren't the only things that indicate what kind of rider you are. So our belief is that the functional fitness and the muscular endurance and the demands of these tests are a better reflection on what it takes to become a better rider. So by performing these and then doing work in between each test and hoping for an increase will actually indicate that you are increasing your functional fitness that then reflects on your riding, which is ultimately the most important thing. Test number 1 is simply burpees for 2 minutes. The burpee is chest and thighs to the ground, and to standing, take off the ground, and shoulder, hip, knee, ankle in line, and temporarily off the ground. I like to touch my hands behind my head because that encourages opening the chest so that I'm not half repping. This is not a burpee, this is. So simply set a timer, do 2 minutes, as many as you can, and then compare yourself to the hundreds of people that have done that test. The second test is a thruster, which is performed with a barbell at 20 kilos for guys, 15 for women. That's a recommendation, but if that feels too heavy, scale down, stay safe. So this is a reasonably technical movement because the weight is not that dangerous, but ultimately it's a front squat into a press overhead. If your mobility in your wrists, elbows, and shoulders is poor, then just hold the bar straight out with wrists straight, elbows under. And as I say, because the bar's not too heavy, that's not going to risk further injury. You have a good front rack position, then you can perform the thruster as so. You're fine to put the bar down in between big sets. The purpose is to test not just your biggest set, but as many as you can in that 2-minute window. So rest appropriately to get the most number of reps. Test yourself, compare yourself. The third test is a very good test for mountain bikers. The upper body is often neglected in training, and then we don't have the balance to be good athletes. So it is pull-ups of any kind. So the purpose of this is that you can at least do one. I know people out there can't do any pull-ups, so scaling at this stage is fine. You can use bands, you can use a lat pull-down machine. Anything in the same range of motion is going to get you better at pull-ups and therefore riding after. So if you can't do one, your goal is one and keep plugging away at that. If you can do one or more, then test yourself, 2 minutes, as many as you can. If you have the kipping technique nailed down, which I'm not going to go into in this video, then by all means, use your hips, have a good kip, but still turn it into a muscular endurance and capacity test, a functional test over strength, which is exactly what we're after. But the purpose here is get one pull-up. If you can do one, you can test, repeat in the future after training, and then see how that reflects on your riding. It's worth noting that these are not the only tests, and they are not a reflection on your bike skills. So bike skill acquisition should always take priority, but if you feel like you're lacking or you don't have the time to get on the bike, then fitness is absolutely going to help you riding. Sign up to a Fit for Racing program. We'll look after all of that, the testing and training, so that ultimately you become a better rider. In next week's video, we're going to talk about the strength tests that we will encourage you to do, which will then determine your program to make progress in the strength that we find helps riders. So tune in next week. I'll see you then. Peace.